Wonderful. So this is episode 4, and I'm with Melissa. We've known each other for quite a few years now, on and off, and I don't know, catching up, picking up right where we leave off every time. And I felt very called to bringing you on today just because I find you to be such a magnetic light that you bring into this world, and just your personality just radiates. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about your life and kind of like your values, the things that, keep you on your purpose and on your mission every day. So if you want to start off talking a little bit about what you do, and then we'll kind of dive right in.
Yeah, for starters, I just want to say thanks for having me on. I think it's funny that you said that about our friendship because I think it's like the telltale sign of a true friendship as an adult is that we'll go for like months without chatting, and then we'll have like 15 to 20, like 3 to 5 minute long voice texts, just catching up on everything that's happened in the time we
Yeah,
haven't talked to each other. So,
totally.
yeah. What would you like me to talk about in terms of me?
Yeah. Well, I remember we met, and I mean, you were working in airlines for a while, and now you're currently in real estate. You've just moved to Calgary, and I think has it been a year now?
Yeah. I just moved over here from Edmonton in August of 2024. I was born in Edmonton and then raised in Manitoba. So we kind of half and halved it growing up, my sister and I. And then I moved back to Edmonton when I graduated from high school. And I would call Edmonton my home base. Although even during that time frame, I did live a couple other places because shortly after moving back, I did get into flying, and that took me to living in Montreal for a while, and it took me to living in Toronto, and so I feel like I've kind of lived a lot of places in this country. But yeah, then COVID definitely. I was living in Toronto, working for Air Canada before COVID, and after everything went down, it was just it was a good move for me to head back to Edmonton and kind of plan my next adventure. And so I ended up heading to Edmonton. I got a job as an assistant with a very busy real estate agent. And from there, everything just kind of snowballed. Like my life took a little bit of a turn in terms of career wise, and that's what I wanted because with the loss of all of our careers during that time frame, I wanted to finally do something that I knew I could control, and that I making sure that I was never gonna be without money again or like a career. So getting into this was like planning for my future and making sure that you know I I'm in control of kind of how much money I'm making. And that actually requires a way different level of commitment than just like showing up at your assigned. I had no idea being an entrepreneur was going to be so wild. It's excellent, but it is, yeah, it's a good time.
It is, and you have to hold yourself so accountable, I find, in an ever changing economy, especially everything that we've experienced even in the last 6 years. Such drastic fluctuations and adapting, and keeping yourself motivated.
Yeah. Like I think I saw a meme at the beginning that said, I quit my 9 to 5 so I could work 24/7. And I laugh about that all the time because it is true. I mean, as time goes on, you learn how to manage your time so you're not doing that. But for the first little bit, like you got to put your daily deposits in order to see any kind of real effort. So yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, I
almost
know.
5 years in and it's going well now. So that's
Good.
good.
Yeah, I can totally relate as an entrepreneur. I definitely feel like you got to do the grunt work. You got to build a foundation brick by brick. And then now I'm finding, well, I just find that since during COVID, both my particular industries were impacted. And so it was a constant almost survival of just like you got to go 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 go, you got to grind all the time. And now I'm really trying to be like intentional on like slowing down and managing my time a little bit differently, even kind of considering taking different contracts, maybe bigger contracts, so that I can kind of like enjoy the rest of my time and slow down instead of just the the grind every single day. But that takes years.
Yeah, and like that's so true what you said about kind of having that ability to slow down. It does come. Uh, Obviously, at the beginning, when you're first starting a business in any form, it's just a lot of just like flying by the seat of your pants, hoping something works, failing a lot of times, and then finally finding that level plane where you're like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm actually good at. And now I can actually take a step back in between projects and then put more things towards the other one. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would love to learn a little bit more about your life and share with our audience just a little bit about yourself, your family, and yeah, pretty much what makes you you.
Sure. Where would we like to begin? Which chapter?
I was very fascinated the other day as you were talking a little bit more of your family lineage and even the meaning behind like your I think claiming your identity and your name.
Yeah, that is a very powerful thing that we're doing, or I feel like I'm doing in my life right now is learning who I really am. And a lot of that comes from kind of how we grew up, how my mom grew up. My mom was actually part of the 60s scoop back in the 1960s. She was put into foster care, taken away from her family, and um, luckily, well, she was 9 months old. She was ended up being adopted by my grandparents as the youngest of nine into a Icelandic family. She's originally from northern Manitoba, off of Peter Ballantine Cree Nation, and so essentially they did their job. You know, my mom grew up not realizing she was Indigenous. She grew up very in a white family, and so my father is actually Métis as well. So, but when we were born, we were kind of like really interested. My sister and I were really interested in finding out more about our heritage and our background. We felt really pulled in the direction of the Indigenous side of our lives because it really resonated with us. And it wasn't until about 10 years ago that my mom got a letter in the mail saying, whoops, sorry, this is what happened to you. Here's your paperwork and stuff like that. And it was only then that she kind of started being like, okay, like maybe we should dive into the background of who her family is. And so both her and I did the Ancestry DNA and the 23andMe, and we found some family members for her. And we discovered that her mother, her biological mother, was actually a victim of homicide in northern Manitoba. And how we found that out is that we found an article of family members of my mom's that actually were doing a march or a protest for missing and murdered Indigenous women in Flin Flon. And for those of you listening, that is a real place. It's in northern Manitoba. And yeah, so we ended up getting the names off of that. We had found that some of the names that the people were there with were connected to the ancestry. So we reached out over Facebook and we were able to connect with my mom's cousin and her biological aunt. Last year, we had a phone conversation and found out just a little bit more about my mom's biological mom, the family, and hopefully we'll get a chance to visit them someday. But my mom obviously took her adopted family's last name, and they had changed her name as well when they adopted her. So when they had ended up passing away, we kind of ended up not really having a lot of connection to that family anymore because, just like life happens, and that's just the way it goes. But I ended up getting so I have my mom's last name. And so I ended up getting my identity stolen when I got my wallet stolen from a yoga studio in like 2021. And it's kind of crazy because you like to see about the silver linings and things because in that moment it was absolutely terrible, but it kind of just like gave me the opportunity to actually change my name into something that really maybe potentially resonated with me. And so I went through that heartache of just like consistently changing my credit cards and everything like that because they had all my identity. So the only way to really get rid of
Yeah.
that was to, you
Start
know,
fresh.
yeah.
Yeah, and I remember you mentioning that it was like very it was difficult because I think they were calling you, right? I think they were trying to contact you for even more information. So it was just a very excruciating process.
Yeah, it's actually crazy. I would highly recommend everybody carry as little identification on them as possible because usually what will happen is they'll sell your information to somebody else who will continue trying to hack you. And the police can't do anything about it because once it's out of their jurisdiction, then there's nobody that really can really help. And a lot of the times it's not in the same city that you're trying to or that you're living in that people are hacking you. But yeah, they called me to pretend to be my bank once they hacked me one time, and they were very believable. It was a lady that was just, she sounded exactly like the bank, and luckily I kind of figured it out. She ended up hanging up on me, but other times they've like hacked into my Equifax, my TransUnion. They changed my fraud recovery like phone number, so it will call them instead of me, which is just crazy. And so basically the only remedy that I could have had was to change my name. And that was actually a really exciting thing for me because I ended up changing my last name to my biological grandmother's maiden name. And is this can I keep talking?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No. I love it.
Okay, yeah. So our families I'm gonna take a little drink here.
I will too.
Um, so my family's last name came from basically we can trace our family tree all the way back to some of the first settlers in Canada. And what had happened was there's a French family that named the Pombriants, and they came and settled in the Red River area. And some of the family members they fell in love with some of the indigenous people that were living in the area, and the rest of the family members were starting to feel a little bit uneasy. I feel like like how when you're building a business it like gets really messy, but like on the grand scale of things, trying to build a country, like I can only imagine what it would have been like back then. And the Pombriand family was like, okay, you know what, we don't want to be part of this anymore. We want to go back to France because it's all developed over there, and we want to just go continue living our lives. And my family, who had now by this time had started families with the indigenous people here, were like, you know what, no, we want to stay and see what's going to be happening, because at that time they were planning to come out west, and they were making way to the Cold Lake, where the Cold Lake area is right now. And the Pompeians were like, no, we don't want to do this. We're going to go back to France. And if you stay, you're going to be exiled from the family forever. Like, you're not part of it anymore. And my family was like, that's fine. We want to stay. We want to do this. So the Pompeians left back to France, and my family continued out west, and they were writing letters back home regardless, just letting them know kind of like what the journeys was like, what it was like, what they were seeing. And at the end of every letter, they wrote sans regret, like no regrets, or without regret in French. And so my families end up changing their last name to Sans Regret, which means without regret. And I feel like it's just like such a powerful name. It's very much a part of my Indigenous heritage, and something that I identify with as a Métis woman. And I feel very proud to carry that name. And I can only imagine what it would have been like to like choose between your family and like something totally unknown at the time, and just to go all in on it. So it's like a reminder to me every day to just like keep going.
I agree. And I find now that the first thing that pops in my mind is like we almost live in a culture of indecision because of just so many options now. And so just like committing to one thing and going for it all in with like your heart and soul, like just literally blazing into the unknown
Yeah.
is such a scary thing, particularly when people are immigrating to a new country with like even like a language barrier and just adapting to a place that's undeveloped and being the pioneers for that. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting too. I really wanted to touch on, so when the family was like, we're going back to France, and like, you know, you're making your decision, it's either a left or right choice here. Is there any contact whatsoever? Has it been just kind of severed because it's just maybe the natural process of minimal communication and, after so many generations, people like lose ties.
Yeah, like we actually have the family tree that all goes all the way back to the late 1800s. So you can kind of see on the family tree kind of where everything starts to change. And I don't believe that they actually have a lot of connection with that family anymore. It kind of just severed over the last 100 or so years. We actually do have some copies of the letters that they had been writing back in the day too. Whoever did our family tree did like a serious deep dive, and I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been so blessed with both sides of my family. My grandma has done an intensive amount of work, and my mom as well. And the thing is you wouldn't know, and you talk to so many people, and they're like, I actually don't know anything about my lineage. Like, no one ever documented it.
Yeah, exactly. And so the claiming of my last name for who I am biologically, and also for my mom to have the piece of finding out who she is, I feel like it was just like another piece of the puzzle of just a couple of really big changes and realizations that I have been going through in the last few years.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, and then I know that when we were still living in the same city, you've definitely made a few different lifestyle choices as well in regards to your journey as well. I've always considered you to be like the brightest person in the room. You always like stand out in the crowd being the social butterfly. But I know recently or within the last year or two, you've actually gone alcohol free as well.
Yes, I have. Completely, haven't even had a sip, which is awesome. But actually, my journey to being alcohol free didn't start 2 years ago. It actually started back in 2021. I have, always been, I guess, a very social drinker. I wouldn't say that I was just getting like I didn't go overboard a lot. I think by a lot of standards, I would have been just like your regular drinker for a lot of my life. But I was drinking pretty much every day, just considering the lifestyle that we were living. I worked in the industry, the restaurant industry. I was also flying. So we hit destinations, we would go for wine and you know what I mean? Like it was just like a very much an integral part of my life. It didn't seem abnormal for me to just have included it or to have it included in everything that we do. And, it wasn't until, I guess, COVID again that I really just went, I guess, my habits started to become a little bit more unhealthy. When I lost my career with Air Canada and I was just very depressed. I couldn't believe that everything that I had worked so hard for could be just taken away from me and I couldn't do anything about it. And I definitely turned on party mode. And for the first few months of COVID, I was just like having the time of my life with no responsibility, but I was like, and then once I started working, in real estate, that's when I started to realize my responsibilities were going to be a lot more than I had ever had before. And I could tell that I needed to make some changes with my relationship with alcohol. But you know what? I believe that you can think about this as much as you want, but it usually something bad has to happen or something really shocking in life has to go on in order for us to go, oh, well, maybe I should, really take a good hard look at this. And it was, I had ended up in the winter of 2021, the day after I got my wallet stolen, I got in a car accident. I was leaving a Christmas party, heading from one Christmas party to the other. I thought I was okay to drive, and I wasn't. But, luckily nobody was hurt, but it really kind of put a lot of things into perspective for me I knew that I had to make some changes right then and there, or I wasn't going to make it out. I just like I had not dealt with like the depression that I had been feeling before, and I knew that, you know, omitting this thing from my life would be one of my biggest steps in kind of getting my other acts together. And so that was the first time that I actually quit, and it was for 3 months, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done, Catania. Like, when your whole adult life you have a drink in your hand, and now you have to relearn how to be social again, and you have to, I don't know, cook, you have to go to the movies, you have to go to shower, baby showers, you have to go out, and you don't have that numbing agent anymore. It was, I found it to be one of the hardest things. I was like a fish out of water. I didn't know how to do it, and so I barely really did anything for like those 3 months.
Do you?
And
I just wanted to add one thing. Do you feel like our society does us a disservice how alcohol is so intricately intertwined in our culture?
yeah, they've done a really good job. Like, same with how they managed to make cigarettes and smoking look so appealing. They really have managed to subliminally encourage you to drink at all times. Like, a lot of sitcoms, everybody has a drink in their hand, and these are things I really didn't even notice until after. But yeah, they want you to spend the money. They want you to keep on doing it. So
Yeah, for myself, when I left being a Jehovah's Witness and I didn't have any social circle outside of the little bubble that I had known, the first thing that naturally you gravitate to, and I was 19, actually, no, sorry, I just turned 20 years old. You go to the bar. That's where you meet all the young kids. They're going out. And, you know, it's very easy to get into a pattern of this is like how you socially engage with each other. And yeah, it definitely, I feel like if that is kind of the course that our culture like sets up for our younger generation, it's really hard to recreate that, especially when like, yeah, you maybe to like really know yourself outside of that, it takes an extended amount of time, and also the people that get it, that aren't going to peer pressure you. And I can almost imagine that like you are not only having to explain this to people that also find this very interesting, but then you also are like compromising with yourself during that entire adjustment into your the life that you've created now.
yeah, like I honestly, I wasn't strong enough to say no when I was going to go out during that first little trial run, I guess I could call it. I knew I wasn't strong enough to say no, so that's why I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna not go. And like, once everything kind of started getting sorted out, I went back to like my regular life. I never ever drank and drove again. I'm gonna just full disclaimer right now, you guys. If you can't afford a $50 Uber, you cannot afford to go out, okay? Because like the repercussions of that accident, I will never be free from. And it is so expensive. It's so terrible. It honestly, please, 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 not even one. It's not even worth it. Like, honestly, just like leave the car at home, please. Oh. But you know, like, after I went back to normal like life, I guess you could call it, I was a little bit more responsible with the way that I was viewing my relationship with alcohol, and I never really forgot how I felt during those first 3 months. Like, even though it was the hardest thing I ever did, I was like, I started to get a glimpse of who Melissa really is during that little brief period of time, and I actually really liked her. I liked her a lot more than the person that sometimes comes out when I was in party mode, and so I made the decision by choice to go a little longer the following winter. And so I ended up going from September until February during that time.
Yeah.
And that time got a little easier. I was like, okay, yeah, I got the hang of this. I was going out, but you know, I was always also just like making excuses kind of for myself, like, oh, not tonight, or I'm just doing dry, blah, blah, blah. You know, you like make a little bit of excuses. I wasn't committing fully to, no, I don't drink. Which ultimately, if you are going alcohol free, those are the words you have to live by in order to make this happen. I don't do it. And I wasn't there yet, so I was like making a lot of excuses, like, oh, maybe another day, and like inevitably I was like, you know what, okay, I'm just gonna go back to drinking again because that was just how it was. And yeah, and then one thing too, I guess I should mention is in those first two times, that's when you kind of get a glimpse of how things are really going to change. Like your relationships with people really do start to change. People will, it's actually surprising that some of the people that you thought would be there forever kind of drift away, and some of the people that you didn't expect will become closer than ever. And that's what I was really noticing. So after what I would consider like the craziest party summer of my life in 2023, I made the decision to finally go completely alcohol free for an entire year. And that I knew I would only be able to achieve if I made it public to everybody that this is what my decision was. I can't be making any more excuses for this. This is truly what I want to do. So I need to go all in. And so I posted it on my social media. I made sure that everybody knew that this was going on, and it was to hold myself accountable, but I also knew people were going to hold me accountable because, I wanted to stay social. I wanted to make sure that I didn't cut myself off from life, that I was still going out there and exploring what things are really like. And yeah, so I went all in, and honestly announcing it was the best thing that I ever did.
I believe it. Well, and I particularly too because it's just so socially acceptable. It's just yeah, you end up like arm wrestling yourself during that entire time. So then when it becomes like a public proclaiming, it probably just became even more real. And then as time went on, you start to, well, one, you like your body adjusts. Your liver probably loves you right now. Even like it's crazy how your brain chemistry changes. And these are things that I think people don't factor in. It's like what that person's experiencing is like it's so internal. And so having friends and a support system that adapt to you as you're navigating this is so important. But then it becomes even more addicting as your life changes. And I guess just truly connecting to yourself. And you said something that really resonated with me, and that was when you are alcohol free and you don't have any sort of, don't get me wrong, like coffee, but when you don't have any like real stimulants, it's like you're feeling everything.
Yeah. Yeah, you really have to, like, it's such a raw experience, kind of not being numbed anymore by a substance. And it is like it is a lot of healing internally and also like physically, because you really can't be hiding from the things that you've been pushing under the rug anymore. Like anything that I felt like could have been things that I could be working on, I never really have, because I was never in a mode to like look at myself and go, okay, maybe this isn't a cool way to be living. Maybe I should be changing some things. And this whole experience, like, it's basically like trying everything for the first time. So, like, I'm in my late 30s now. My whole adult life, I've been drinking, like, socially. And so, trying everything brand new, you kind of realize what you love to do for real and what you actually only thought you liked doing, but you only did it because you were drinking and there was a party involved. And you get a lot of your time back. I found that I became reliable. Like for the first time in my life, when I said something, and still to this day, I will follow through to it. I will not cancel plans. I won't flake, because I really want to show up for them and myself because it makes me feel good. And, and like, yeah, so it was just a year of trying new things. And I, I encourage anybody who would ever want to try this, if that's something that you're considering, is to just give yourself a little bit of grace at the beginning, because it's not easy. It is kind of a lonely thing at the start because you're adjusting to what would be considered a new normal. and your body is recovering from years of abuse, even if you drink just like very, very casually. And so it took me about like 90 days, I would say, to finally snap out of like the slump. And then a full 6 months. And a lot of people will say this to finally be like, okay, now I get why I don't need it anymore. But it's like one step in front of the other every day that you get closer to that, it gets easier. And so I promised myself a year off. After 6 months, I was like, I think I could do this longer. But I was coming up on a Europe trip when I was flying business class, and I was always used to just like trying all the wines and doing all that stuff at the front. And I was like, this is my true test because like I almost canceled that trip like maybe 6 or 7 times throughout the year. And then finally the day came, I got on the plane and it's fine. The buildup of of getting to an event where you're worried about alcohol is actually worse than the actual being at the event and just not drinking. It's like, oh, will I be able to do it? What are people going to say? What are people going to think about me? And then you get there, you're like, no, I'm good. And that's it. No one cares. It's like, oh. So yeah, after I got back from that, that was in June of 2024. I was like, okay, you know what? I have now proven to myself that I can do pretty much anything in this world, and I absolutely do not need alcohol anymore. I'm just going to keep the party going. And so after a year, I was like, let's go.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful. Yeah, I feel like more than ever now people are more intrigued as well. I find in a lot of social settings you talk about kind of the lifestyle and the shift that you're making, and people are more coming from a place of curiosity too. And that could be just because of coming of age as well. I can definitely admit myself, my liver does not work the same way as it used to. And I think part of like everyone's transformation, you start to have to really evaluate like what your time is worth, and the recovery time, it's more difficult than ever, right? And even I feel like the alcohol limit on what is like the appropriate amount, I believe now with more statistics, they're finding it's less and less. Mm-hmm. And so I'd be very curious to see kind of as time goes through and as we shift as a collective, how much more exposed we'll be, or if people we're going to retract back to having less, because mm-hmm. even like most restaurants you go to now, there's like a whole menu of like mocktails and options for that. And you can still get that experience. You still get that social connection, but like you don't have to worry. And particularly living where we do in Alberta, it is not the easiest road conditions to drive in as well. And so it's just not even worth the risk anymore. So
yeah. Yeah, there's just so much that goes into that, even the very act of drinking and driving. It's just the worst thing you could do. Like, number one, you could hurt someone else. Number two, you could hurt yourself. And like, it's been a wild roller coaster. And like I said, it takes little moments like that where, you think you got a handle on it, and then, something happens to make you go, whoa. The one thing I really don't agree with is that we have always been trained or conditioned that you need to identify a problem with alcohol in order to consider the act of just quitting, that you need to, maybe identify as an alcoholic, or, you have to be taking this 12 steps or anything like that. When in reality, it doesn't always have to get that far. Like, I knew that my habits and were around alcohol were not right. Did I have an addiction? I would say yes. Do I consider myself not having that now still? No. I think that I was able to recognize the changes that I wanted to make and take the steps to get away from it, to break that habit that essentially basically took me down the road of addiction. And I want to say too, like, if I can do it, anyone can, because I was an excellent partier. Like, I honestly feel like I retired at the peak of my career. Like, I feel like I did it all. And yeah, so yeah, like I said, it does have to get to a point where something happens in order to change your mind. And it's like those really good times where you got a handle on it, but then it always gets back to that moment where it's like something happens and you're like, oh no, like maybe I don't have as big of a handle on it. And I know for me, I love drinking. That's why I don't do it anymore. Like I also know that I love not drinking more. The benefits that it has given me have surpassed anything that I've ever done in my life. I truly feel like I've met myself for the first time. I spent the first year just trying everything and like becoming, more sure of like what I like and don't like in life. My circle of friends has gotten smaller and more just rich. I had just have better relationships with everybody that I meet. My work ethic has skyrocketed. I finally have built a life that I don't need to escape from on the weekends anymore. Like I love waking up in the morning and having a cup of coffee and like planning my day and showing up raw. Like I'm a lot more emotional. I was emotional before, but I'm a lot more emotional now. Like I will cry pretty much at any given time. I'll just be driving.
Same.
I'll see something beautiful. I'm like, oh.
Same.
Because we've been suppressing, but like a numbing the ability to feel, really feel for a long, long time. So being able to just like feel that goodness and feel the pain and work through everything is just like whoa. Like I am so human.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And I love the feeling as well of waking up on like a Saturday or Sunday morning and feeling so refreshed and not exhausted. I will honestly say too, like your quality of sleep is such a crucial part, and alcohol is such a huge disruptor. I would say too myself, I feel like the amount of times that I've drank and I've acted out a character, the emotional weight that goes with it, to me, it's like the juice isn't worth the squeeze anymore. And yeah, it's really a beautiful thing when you
Yeah.
actually like feel it out fully.
Yeah, exactly. And I like just knowing that I'll never have a hangover again is excellent. Like when I'm feeling sick, I know I can pinpoint maybe it was something that I ate last night, or maybe it was a product of this. It's no longer that I'm just like feeling sick because I'm probably hungover and I slept weird. I'm not exercising properly. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, okay, I'm feeling sick here because of like it's easier to like kind of figure out what's going on.
Totally.
And yeah, when I was first getting into this, I follow this account called Magic is in the Middle. It's such a powerful sober account, and she always talks about how on Sunday morning she never wished she drank on Friday and Saturday night. And I think about that all the time, like thinking about future me going into the weekend, just knowing I'm going to be a better person on Sunday, and I'm not going to be wasting my day, and I'm going to be able to wake up slowly and have my day kind of start the way that I want to is just it's a really beautiful thing. I feel like we don't got a lot of time here. And so if we're kind of just like skipping a lot of the parts that could matter, I feel like we're doing ourselves a bit of a disservice. And I really do feel like for the very first time in my life, I'm starting to truly live my real life. It's just
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, I agree. Just reevaluating kind of what brings you the most amount of joy and best quality of life.
Yeah.
But I've been watching your socials and I can see that there's no shortage of activities and connection, and you just literally showing up your authentic self unmasked, like fully present, engaged. So it's wonderful to see, and I'm glad that you're on this path. And yeah, I don't know if this resonates with anyone, but I hope that it is food for thought that anyone that is listening in. But I just wanted to thank you so much for your
Yeah.
time.
I will say too, like I do think that there's a big shift. I think, like if you go to Vancouver, there's like more non-alcoholic liquor stores there now than there actually, it's harder to find liquor. And it's okay to explore the idea of potentially going alcohol free before something bad happens. Like that's my goal. That's my wish for everyone in life, that you don't have to get to the point where you're like, oh no, until you're like, okay, like I hope it gets there. Maybe next generation. It is starting now, and like I said, just give yourself grace. If it's something that you want to try, you can reach out to us. Like me and Katania are trying the alcohol free thing right now, and like it's great. So yeah, just give yourself grace, one day at a time, and it is worth it. It is really it's really great.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, yeah, once again, I don't know who this will resonate with, but it's always a good thing to explore. And you never really know kind of what your life could look like. But yeah, I don't know. I wonder in the next decade or two whether, like, what life will look like and everything. Because I even find the younger generations now, it doesn't seem to be as much of a demand as well either.
Yeah, like I think for us growing up, that was like pretty much a big part of our culture, like how we grew up, even throughout high school, our parents, you know what I mean? Like that it was a big part of their lives too. So I think there is definitely like a change towards choosing a healthier life, and I love to see it. I think it's great. I also I feel like rather than and meeting people at bars now, I do meet people through fitness. I still go out, obviously, but I also find that the connections are not as deep there as if you're like trying to work out class with somebody or doing group fitness or running, because you're kind of seeing somebody in their true element. And those are the relationships that I feel have become some of my truest friends now because we just have the same things in common. So,
Yeah, you're
yeah.
bonding over an activity, as opposed to a social outing, Yeah. Because
Hmm.
that's the other thing, too. I can imagine, and respectfully, like people do come and go out of your life. But particularly if your only common ground is sharing and, conversing while having a drink, it can just change, right? And
Hmm.
everyone has their own timeline. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
trying to
one
lead
thing
from the
this
heart.
Yeah, one thing this has really taught me too is, and a friend of mine said this who had also gone alcohol free a couple years ago, is to let the ego in the car, but don't let it be the driver. And the biggest thing about alcohol is that if I were to ever do it again, it would be because would be wanting to fit in with somebody who's or a group that's also, and in that case, I shouldn't be even like really entertaining the idea of friendships with these people because that's like the tough thing is that if that's the only way that you're going to be accepted, and I had to ask myself like, why am I upset that I wasn't invited to some things, because that'll inevitably happen too, and it's like it's okay that it is okay. Like it's taught me that being alcohol free has taught me that I'm only in control of Melissa. Like only this, how I show up in the world, how I respond to things. This is the only thing I control. I can't control what anyone else in this world does. So this is my decision to have gone alcohol free. I don't expect it to be anybody else's because everybody else's relationship with alcohol is different than mine. I just know for me, I love to party. So I'm just like I can't just I'm not the type of person to have just one. I like getting buzzed. Like I loved like the having a drink. And so, it's not the same for anybody else. I can't ever compare my personal circumstances to even yours. Your personal decisions for choosing to go alcohol free are yours, and I respect and value them so much. If you were to go back drinking tomorrow, I wouldn't even be I couldn't care less. Do you know what I mean? That's your decision. I'm just going to be here for you whenever, whatever seasons you're going to be in, and that's a really important thing to remember too. It's like, yeah, this is it. So, yeah, I really respect, other people's decisions or their
Yeah.
relationship with booze.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone has their own path, but I do wholeheartedly agree about like the pressure of kind of fitting in and kind of getting convinced. And I think that is a huge learning curve when you are considering that or like adapting to it is you don't want to let anyone down or you don't want to disappoint anyone or you don't want to be like
Yes.
not fun, but at the end of the day if it is in your best interest, yeah, it's trying to work through that hurdle.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it is feel peer pressure, like that. A lot of it, like I said, like everything's been ingrained to for us to have booze at every event, and so it's really still an anomaly to be like, no, it doesn't actually need to revolve around it. And yeah, it is a learning curve, but it is definitely one that pays off.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your time and sharing. Um,
Yeah, thanks for
is there
having me.
anything, yeah, is there anything like you have planned for next year? I feel like you're so goal oriented.
Well, I make a vision board. I usually try to like in December, I'll print out a bunch of pictures from last or for that I want to accomplish for the year. And this actually started back when I was flying, back in 2012, I think it was. I was bored on the plane and I ended up just grabbing a sick bag and I like wrote down like, I don't know, it was probably like 60 things. Everything from like riding in a hot air balloon to like traveling to certain places and a bunch of like other really personal big life events that I would wanted to have happen. And then I just stored it and I forgot about it. And like 4 years later, I pulled it out and I had accomplished almost like 97, 99% of those things. There was like maybe, I don't know, five or six things that I didn't. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it's crazy the power of our minds. Because I didn't even think about those things anymore. But because I had like kind of set the wheels in motion subliminally in the back of my mind, I was bringing them into like manifestation. And so I really believe in a vision board. So I do one every year. And then anything that kind of doesn't get accomplished, I ask myself, do I really want that? And if it is, then it goes on the next year's. Or there'll be like already stepping stones in place to have that done. And it's just little things too, like going skiing or you know what I mean, like working with. I really do want to like focus more on working with Indigenous youth. That has been always my heart since I was a teenager, and I'm getting more involved with the community here and just learning more about my background and everybody else's. And so, yeah, it's been really, really fun. So I would
Love
say,
it.
yeah, vision board, and we'll see what happens.
Wonderful. Love it. Love it. Well, thank
Yeah.
you
What about
so
you?
much. Oh, for me, I honestly want to continue this series of interviews. I want to become more proficient in my interviewing. I feel like just as a photographer and documenting and visual storytelling, I still want to continue more humanitarian work. I really want to highlight so many different narratives. I think we have such a blank canvas when I think about media as a whole and like even what us as Canadians have access to in regards to like accessing the news on social media. And so I really want to be intentional on the content I produce and I want it to come from a heartfelt place and allow people to have the power and the discernment to make the right decisions for themselves. And so
Hmm.
I hope
I love
that,
that.
the ripple effect is just even if it's one person at a time. I'm
Yeah.
hoping that it can help people. So
Totally.
that's
And
my
in
plan.
a world full of media where social media has actually isolated us more than it has connected us, having the experience of sitting down and talking with you and resonating with true human emotion and struggles is more important today more than it ever has been. And so thanks for telling the stories.